everybody, welcome back to Chelsea Bakes. Today we have a special guest, my grandma, Carolyn Miller, and today we're going to focus on a cake donut recipe that's been passed down from generation to generation in my family. It's my great-great-grandmother's recipe. A lot of my family members on my mom's side of the family love this recipe. It's a huge hit. It's great for fall. We actually have the recipe in this nice little recipe booklet that my grandma made. So Grandma, what made you want to put this book together for us?
Well, just over the years, all my children had favorites, and I just thought it would be a good thing for them to have whenever I'm gone. So it's just like a keepsake of all their favorite foods that they liked over the years.
And the cake donuts are definitely one of our favorites, so let's get started. All right, so my grandma's actually gonna lead me along the steps. She has this recipe memorized from baking these donuts for us so many times over the years. So Grandma, what's the first ingredient that I'm going to need
You're going to add 4 teaspoons of the baking powder. Make sure it's fresh baking powder.
And you're gonna wanna add that to your 4 cups of flour
Yes.
that you already have in a bowl ready to go. So again, 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And you're gonna wanna make sure, as my grandma told me earlier when we were making a batch of these, that it's best to get a fresh can of baking powder. It helps the donuts to rise as opposed to them being flat. So definitely make sure you have your fresh can of baking powder.
And then you're going to add a teaspoon of salt. Okay, next you're going to add a 4th teaspoon of nutmeg. It's not all, you don't always have to use the nutmeg. I've omitted it a lot of times, but it is in the recipe, 4th teaspoon.
If you have it on hand, you can add it. If not,
Don't
it's a
worry
step that's
about it.
easy to
Yeah.
omit.
And then you want a 1/2 teaspoon of your cinnamon. Okay. Now the recipe calls for you to sift it, but I always just stir it real good.
So we're gonna mix the dry ingredients.
I can remember my mother always would sift it. It was important to sift, she said. She had a flour sifter, but I just started just stirring it real good. Stir it around real good so you make sure it's all mixed.
I guess that's what you do when you have 9 kids
Yes.
and you're in a hurry.
See, your cinnamon's still in groups right there. You gotta make sure it's all mixed. That's it. I think that's pretty good, huh?
Okay, now
Now you're going to go to your next bowl and you're going to add a cup of sugar,
cup of sugar.
okay? Now you're going to add your shortening, 2 tablespoons of Crisco shortening. Now you're going to cream that together. Okay, after you have the creaming, the sugar and the shortening creamed together, you're going to beat. You need 2 well-beaten eggs. No shells.
No shells. Be careful with those shells. So we're gonna beat the eggs.
Yeah.
Then what's next, Grandma?
Okay, you're going to add that to your sugar and shortening mix. And you're going to stir it around, get it well mixed. That's good.
Add it to the sugar
Yes.
and shortening.
Yes.
We're gonna mix this.
Yes. Yes. Mix that real good.
My grandma recommends using a perforated spoon for the mixture.
That's good. That's good. Now, do you have your cup of milk measured?
Yes, we have the cup of
Okay.
milk. So 1 cup of milk, preferably whole milk or 2% at least, no skim.
Now, you're going to alternately add your flour mixture and your milk.
So we're gonna wanna add
Just about half of
half.
it. And about half of the milk and mix it together. That's good. Now mix it. It gets a little harder to mix, but you have to get it well mixed to get all the flour.
The consistency is somewhat sticky, but as my grandma said, make sure you get all of the flour off the sides of the bowl. Then add the rest
Okay,
of
now
the
add
mixture.
the rest. Add the rest of your milk. Now you really got to stir it to mix it. It gets a little hard to stir, but
She said this takes some elbow grease.
yeah. You're getting it.
Now, Grandma, do you recommend mixing it by hand or with a mixer?
No, with a spoon. Don't use a mixer on it. It gets too thick to use a mixer. Make sure you get off all the sides of your bowl. That's it. You just keep stirring till you make sure there's no flour left, that isn't moistened. Okay. Just kind of get it like in a all together, and then we have to let that set uncovered for about 25 minutes.
So once you have everything mixed together, again, you're gonna wanna have that set for approximately 20 to 25 minutes to give the dough a chance to set. So we already had dough ready in advance for this show, so now we're going to flour the surface and roll the dough out for the donut.
You have to put plenty on,
Lots of flour.
and spread it out some more, because you're going to sprinkle some over the top of it. Go ahead, more than that. Okay. Now grab your
With the dough mixture.
dough.
And Grandma, why don't you tell everybody the story of the donut hole cutter?
Oh, yes, we have a regular donut cutter. My mother got this somewhere, which would have been Chelsea's grandmother. And it's a very handy little gadget. Chelsea thought it was a lid, but
It's actually a donut cutter,
and you can actually take the circle in the inside out and use it as a biscuit cutter. But I also have a biscuit cutter, so we're just using this as it is.
So
That's it. Now flip it around so you get flour all over it. Okay. Now you're going to start rolling it out. You can spread your flour out a little bit more. Maybe we got a little, okay. That's good. That's good. Now you can roll it out to what thickness you want, but if you roll it too thin, they're a thin donut. But
I'd say
roll
about 3/4 of an inch.
yeah, just go a little more there. Okay, I think that's good.
So next we're going to cut out the donuts.
Flour it first. Stick it in the flour, that's it. And we always save the holes for last. They were always a good treat for the kids.
Don't waste the donut holes.
No, you don't waste them.
So we'll just set the donut holes off to the side for now. And how many donuts can we fit?
4 will fit in at once. You can do 4 at a time.
So you're going to want to start out with the basket out of the Crisco. Crisco is what we use to fry them in. And how much would you say, Grandma, that we use? The whole can?
Yeah, whole 3-pound can. You now just lay it in the basket, yes. Maybe flour it again, Chelsea, maybe. Okay.
And be very careful because the fryer is extremely hot.
Okay, now you know how to lift it off and put it down. And it should be hot enough.
So you're going to lift the basket and put it down into the Crisco.
Oh yeah, it's
You
hot.
can hear the donuts start to fry. The donuts do start to rise to the top. And how long do you need to fry them for, Grandma?
Approximately 4 to 5 minutes.
And you're going to want to look for the edges of the donuts. They turn a golden brown color. Once they turn a golden brown, which is about 2 to 3 minutes into the process, you're going to want to flip the donuts over for another minute or so.
Take that and move it. It was underneath part of that. That's it.
And what temperature do you recommend the fryer to be at?
I usually have it around 375 or 400.
Around 375 or 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, not the healthiest recipe, but they are delicious. And how many donuts does this recipe usually yield, Grandma?
I usually get close to 4 dozen.
4 dozen.
Yeah. Between 3.5 and 4 dozen.
Does that include the donut holes or are those an extra treat?
No, that includes the whole. Well, I mean, I don't count them as a donut. They're just the extra treat.
Secret
Yeah.
treats.
You can also coat them in sugar or cinnamon, or just eat them plain. They're good.
Okay, so now that the donuts are starting to turn a golden brown color around the edges, you're going to want to flip them over and let them simmer in the oil for about another minute or so.
Yeah, it won't take as long on the second side. You can always use a perforated spoon to do it too. You don't always have to use a fork. Okay.
And then also, in preparation to coat the donuts, you can eat them plain, but we really like them in our family with plain sugar and also a cinnamon and sugar mixture. So we have the mixtures prepared in advance because you do want to let the donuts cool for a minute or so and then dip them while they are still warm. It helps to ensure that the donuts are completely coated in the sugar and the cinnamon sugar mixtures.
I just want to check and see if they're brown enough. No, not yet. When you take them out, always remember to raise the basket up so the grease can drain off.
So when they're ready, we're going to want to raise the basket out and make sure the grease drips off a little bit.
And you always have to use extreme care when using a deep fryer.
It also helps to have a plate ready with several layers of paper towels so that it can absorb some of the grease before you dip them in the sugar mixtures. Look ready?
Yeah. Raise it up to the highest one. There.
This one?
Yeah, right there. Just let it drip off a minute before you take them out. I'll put this plate here so you can.
I'm going to be very careful when you take the donuts out of the basket.
You could always stick it in the hole and pull them out. Okay, now go ahead and put your 4 donuts in that you're going to fry now.
So we're going to put 4 more in the fryer while the first batch cools a little bit before we put them in the mixtures. Okay, so now we're going to coat the donuts in sugar and cinnamon sugar. My grandma's doing the sugar, I'm doing the cinnamon and sugar, which is my personal favorite. Grandma, what's your favorite? Do you like them plain,
I like
sugar,
plain.
or cinnamon sugar?
I like a plain donut.
Now these are great with milk, a nice cool glass of milk,
A hot cup of coffee.
hot cup of coffee, which is my preference.
Okay. We need something to put these on. Okay, that's good. It's really easier with 2 people doing it than 1, believe me.
Definitely helps to have an extra set of hands when you're making this recipe. Plus, they're best to enjoy when they're hot.
Okay, now you can put your next batch in. While that cools.
So now we're going to put in the last batch, plus the donut holes. The donut holes don't have to be laid in there perfect.
No, they kind of do their own thing in there anyhow. Okay. There we go. It won't take those as long.
So we're going to dip the last few donuts in their mixtures.
I'm going to leave a plain one, okay?
I'm going to leave a couple plain ones this time.
Okay, well then here, I'll just do 1 sugar.
And 1 cinnamon. The donut holes are hard to flip over, so Grandma, what do you recommend using if you don't want to use the fork for those?
Oh, you can use a spoon, a perforated spoon.
Perforated spoons make a good option. They do tend to roll around on their own. They're very sporadic.
Yeah. But that's what's good about this recipe. No matter what, they're done and it tastes good.
Doesn't have to be perfect. The taste is all that matters.
They're really being stubborn today.
We're about to take the last batch out, so right after we're finished coating them, we'll be back after this break.
Armstrong would like to say thank you for your generosity and donations to our Healing Heroes initiative. With your help, we've raised the funds necessary to train 8 service dogs from Guardian Angels to be donated to area veterans suffering from disabilities such as PTSD and brain injury, among others. If you or a loved one are a qualifying veteran and would like to apply, please visit medicalservicedogs.org and click on Applications. Together, we can unleash the power of hope, the power of giving, the power to heal.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Chelsea Bakes. So now we have the finished product. As you can see, we have quite a few donuts and donut holes here. So we're gonna actually enjoy a tasty treat. These are one of my favorites. My grandma actually likes to pick on me because I like sweets so much.
I can remember when we went to New York a couple years ago, we had to stop at every bakery along the way because Chelsea loved all those special pastries and cookies.
What can I say? I have a sweet tooth. So ready, Grandma? You pick first.
I think I'll just have a donut hole.
Gonna have one of these cinnamon ones.
Delicious.
Very good. Well, thank you, Grandma.
We can't eat all those.
Sure we can. Well, thank you, Grandma, for being on the show today and sharing your recipe with everybody. I'm sure we'll have a lot of fans of this nice fall treat.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Bye, everybody. See you next time on Chelsea Bakes.